He leaves it alone outside off stump. Now, Tubb, what I want to ask you about, I was thinking about this. As I said to you previously, when Triple M were all excited they'd signed up Mark Taylor, I thought, yeah, he's a good line and length. I've seen him for years on Channel 9. He's very professional, very polished, and he's got great opinions. But I didn't know that you were one of the great entertainers that were obviously just playing the TV role beautifully. I used to love watching you on Channel 9, and those blokes are my heroes growing up, listening to all you blokes, and then Richie and Bill and Tony. What was it like when you first stepped into that commentary box?
I couldn't know what's the right word. I was going to say confronting. It wasn't confronting, but it was almost like you're on debut in a test match team.
Yeah. Butler leaves it 1-1. So how long out of the game were you when you first went in?
First season.
First season. Straight into a test match?
Yeah, pretty well.
Did you roll out some mercantile mutuals first, or what happened?
Just a couple.
Right.
Yeah, well, I finished playing in January of 99.
Yeah.
Signed up with Channel 9. You had to do that through Kerry first. So you had to go and have lunch with Kerry and had a good bit of a barney with him.
And did he sort of give you a view of what he wanted you to provide?
Not really.
Right.
I was waiting for that, but no, all he got was my opinions on the game and what have you. And then he said, well, and we shook hands. Then he said, well, maybe we could, we might sort something out. And
so that was a trial run, a bit of an interview.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Wow. Stark to Butler. Oh, that seems back, but again, he leaves it alone without problem. 6-1-60. So you got the tick from him.
Yeah, I got the tick. So then it was Gary Burns was the old head of sport. He then sort of said to me, oh, mate, you're right. So we'll get down to the contract. Got that sorted. Then there was the World Cup. I think Australia played the World Cup, 1999 World Cup.
Oh, yes.
So did a couple of games from a studio on that. And then
so that was in England, which they went on and win.
Yeah, they went on. I was over there for the final of that. And then the following season, I'm in the commentary box, So
for the first test?
Yeah, for the first Mercantile Mutual, North Sydney Oval, you go in there to start with, and then I'm up at the Gabba for the first test.
So do you remember, as Butler flicks it away on the league side without scoring, do you remember who the summer was? Who was out there in your first summer?
No, it was Pakistan. It was when, because Gilly got that big 140 at Hobart.
Oh, with JL.
With Lang, yeah. That was about my second or third test, I think, as a commentator.
So do you roll in there nervous on the first day? Like, this is Bill, this is Richie, this is Tony.
Yeah.
And then Tubby.
And that was the first bit. And then the second thing, I was thinking, well, what do you do? What really actually happens? So then you get this roster. And Heels and I sort of joined together. You get your half hours, and we only got like 1.5 hour every session. That's all we got. Not too many first up.
Stark. As Butler defending off the back foot. We want to hear more about Tubby debuting at Channel 9 in a moment. England is 6-1-60 for Cooper's Mild Ale, Triple M Rocks cricket. Man, 2 metres in front of the square leg umpire, and Mitchell Stark at fine leg on about a 45-degree angle. He comes in now in glorious conditions in Adelaide. Australia's searching, but not picking up a wicket here. So the roster is interesting because the young up-and-comers, you want as much airtime as possible. And then the senior ones are happy to rest on their laurels. They maybe don't want so much. So it's always a point of contention, but then there's those in the box that want constant airtime as well. So
yeah, well, see, it was a little bit different in those days.
Was it?
This was the first time that the model had been, or not broken, had been tested. You had the big four, Richie, Tony, Bill and Ian.
Right, so they were used to that.
In come Heels and I, and all of a sudden it was like, well, how many slots do we give them? So it was only 1 slot per session.
Pushes away on the offside, 6-1-60.
And eventually 1 slot per session became 2 in one session. And that's when Greggy was very protective. He would just walk in, see the roster on the wall and go, no, that's not happening. And he'd cross your name out. No, that's going to be me there. So, okay. Look, I've got 1 less slot by the looks of it. So,
and so as a former Australian captain, you didn't pipe up. You were just like, no worries.
Okay, fine. So, but I think it was a bit of show because it didn't last very long.
Right.
I'm sure one of the producers or head of sport said, no, we're going to go this way.
Richardson to Wokes. Just keeps it touch low and he punches it away on the offside from the back foot. Again, can't beat the field.
Yeah, so eventually you get a few more slots and then you actually get a bit of on-air time.
Oh, a bit of hosting.
Oh, yeah. And that's when you get a little bit tight in the loins and what have you. And, and then it was a few years later, I think I called a hat trick.
Peter Siddle?
No, Glenn McGrath.
Oh, Glenn McGrath.
I've done 2.
Good on you.
I've called 2 hat tricks. And it was about my first year of ball-by-ball commentary. And there I was. And McGrath's knocked over... he knocked over Lara, and I think maybe Sherwin Campbell, and I'm on this hat trick. And I called it, and he got Jimmy Adams out, called it back pad, and I called it as good as I thought I could.
Richardson again, the fourth ball of his over to Wokes. It's short and he just slides underneath at 6 for 160.
Yeah, and then I thought, oh, that came out okay. And I said, McGrath's got a hat-trick, blah, 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 and walked off. And then, half an hour later, Gary Burns, who said the head of sport at the Times, walks up and says, Tubby, said, that hat-trick, I don't even think I'll have to get Bill to dub over that. And walked off.
So
and that was his way of saying it was okay.
You'd made the grade.
Yeah, so that's how it's all started. But you just was slowly. And it was all just learning on the job. That's all it was.
We need to talk about Richie because he's such a fabled part of Australian sporting life and broadcasting life. We'll get through this over first. England are holding on, though, Tub. Could they? Could they?
No, they can't. I don't think they can. But I suppose they could. If the question's could they, of course they could. But
well, these two need to take them to within 6 overs of the end, don't they, really?
I was thinking about Faf du Plessis here many years ago. But Australia were a bowler or two short in that game.
Yep.
I'm surprised Cameron Green hasn't bowled a bit more. I'd like to see him have a bowl. And as I said, ruffle a few feathers, especially the Wokes. Get into him.
Skids onto the bat.
Go!
Wokes looking really confident now, 40 from 90. Butler's 21 from 124. On the Triple M TikTok scoreboard, England 6 for 160 after 86 overs. For Cooper's Mildale, Triple M Rocks
As part of
Triple M Anaconda stats, big brands, best prices, biggest Ranger, Anaconda. Cam Green, Tub wants to see more of him. How many overs has he bowled?
Cam Green, just the 5 overs this innings, none for 8. Has 5 wickets at 12 this series.
Hasn't bowled today?
Hasn't bowled today.
Okay, Nisa into the attack now, 1 for 21 off his 9 overs. Right, Tub, so tell us, what was it like working with Richie? That's something to be treasured, I guess.
One of the great pleasures
Is it?
and honours of my commentary life was to get to know Richie Benaud, play golf with him, commentate with him, watch him in action.
And he said a Butler off the outside portion of the bat. Line will have to chase it down through a vacant gully. They'll trot back for 2. Butler trots along to 23, 6 for 162.
Absolute gentleman of the game, but not as straight-laced as everyone made out.
Was he not?
Oh, no, he loved a good time, as Billy Birmingham, the 12th man, loved a Chardonnay, loved going out for dinner, loved the cricket, just watching it, calling it, being at it, loved his horse racing. He wasn't watching the game, he'd have his computer at the back of the commentary box.
Butler checks his drive to cover, no run.
Yeah, so he'd have his computer at the back of the commentary box and he'd be checking all the horse racing around the world, have a bit of money here, a bit of money there, yeah, just to keep himself occupied during the day, but always kept an eye on the game.
Did he give you advice at all?
No,
or not?
No, he'd give you a look.
Right.
Occasionally, if you said something we thought was absolute rubbish, he'd sort of throw roll the eyes back a bit, and I think, oh God, I'm talking absolute crap there. But occasionally he'd lift the eyebrows, and I think, oh, maybe I've told Richie something he didn't think of, and you get a little bit of you put the shoulders back and sit up more in your chair,
I love this. Nisa's full and he's just paddled straight back down the ground to Mitchell Stark at mid-on.
He never told you how to commentate. He gave me one piece of advice, which he gave, and it's the same piece of advice he gave to Ian Chappell, apparently. I was calling a game. I was calling Warnie's 99 at Perth. And Warnie Daniel Vittori knocks one out the deep, and Mark Richardson takes the catch. And I said something like, Warne goes for it, looking for his 100, obviously.
Nisa again, through the bowling crease. Just seems back a bit, but no concerns for Butler.
And I said he goes for it, and Richardson's out there, takes the catch, and Warne's out for 99. What a tragedy. And I'll leave it at that. I think that's not a bad call.
Yeah.
I look over Richie, who's my co-commentator. He says absolutely nothing. Gives me nothing. And then I got the producer in here saying, no, throw to a break. And I said, well, Australia are all out for 400 and something, and we'll be back shortly. I thought, well, I wonder what happened to Richie. Like, that was his job to pick up from my call and throw to the break. That was his job.
Yeah. No run outside of stumps.
He waits until the next day, walks up to me and says, Mark, can I have a word? Takes me into the green room or out the back and just reaches into his jacket pocket, pulls out a note and says, do with this as you see fit. I'm thinking, oh, and in it, I open it up, it's like Mission Impossible. I'm waiting to think for burn, in 8 seconds. And it says on it, tragedy. The top of it says tragedy. It said, the Titanic was a tragedy. Thousands dying in Ethiopia every day is a tragedy. Shane Warne getting 99 is not a tragedy.
6 for 162. We'll continue on. I hope so for Cooper's Mild Ale, Triple M Rocks Cricket. England are 6 for 162. Butler 23 off 130 deliveries. Wokes 40 from 91. The partnership 57 off 184 deliveries. So they've taken up 30.4 overs. That's the most important number. Richardson skids in again and directly back down the ground to Stark off the bat of Wokes. Mark Taylor's taking into his early days at Channel 9 and Richie Benno and the word tragedy to describe a cricket dismissal.
So he said, the note said tragedy, it was the heading, and it said the Titanic was a tragedy, thousands dying in Ethiopia or something, or from hunger is a tragedy. Shane Warne getting 99 is not a tragedy. So I said, OK, right, I'm never using that again. I'll put that word right out of it. It's not a tragedy. It's obviously involves someone passing away. It's a tragedy. And Shane Warne didn't do that.
Richardson hustles into Wokes. There's a short one. Just dropped the periscope, got the bat out of the way, but that was good from Richardson. Good bit of fizz that one, Tub.
Yeah, it's better. I want a few more of those I want to see. Yeah, so anyway, I say to myself, never using that again. Well, one day it comes around, about 3 weeks later, stupid Michael Bevan runs himself out for 99, doesn't he?
Yes.
And I'm on with Richie at the time.
Yes.
And I said, Bevan hits it, runs, oh no, the throws hit the stumps, Bevan's run out for 99, what a tragedy. And it just comes out of my mouth and I want the word back, you know. And Richie gives me the look. Hey, the look.
Wokes. Just on the back foot, no problems.
And I'm thinking, is that the look of you didn't listen to me? Or you're just a slow bloody learner?
Haven't used it since?
No, tried not to. And yet amazing, every time I hear, and commentators use it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of Richie. If I ever hear the word tragedy. And the other part of the story is I told that story at Richie's wake. And Chaps walked straight up to me and Chap said, oh, he gave you that. He gave me that card in 1983, he said.
To Butler. Good work by Mitchell Stark. Stops any thought of a run. 7 for 166. I just want to ask you a couple more questions about Channel 9. The Bill and Tony thing. Was it manufactured or was it real? That beautiful on-air chemistry angst they had.
Most of the time, just real. Occasionally, Greggy would lean over in a boring game and say, well, we better find something to do here, Bill. Oh, yeah, sure.
Nisha again to Butler. Full defended.
And you can just about bet that Tony would say something that you know would just get under Bill's nose. You know, something about some Victorian. You know, he might say that, you know, that Merv Hughes was a good little off spinner or something.
Right.
Oh, off spinner? You're joking? One of the finest fast bowlers in the world. And off he'd go. You know. So they were great like that, those two. But generally, most of the time, it just happened. They just called the game. Bill just loved the game. It still does. I bet he's probably keeping an eye on this one as we speak.
Butler has no interest outside off stump. 7 for 166.
Bill, always first man in the commentary box.
Was he?
Oh, yeah. He would be, and he did very little in front of the camera stuff. So, you know, it's like now how with Fox, you come down here at 3 hours before the game and you're rehearsing, looking at things and getting a feel for what you're going to do.
Absolutely.
Bill would be the same, but he'd do nothing on camera.
Right.
He'd just sit in the commentary box and look out. But it's amazing. I like to get here early-ish as well. I like to be here as well, just to see if anything happens, what's going on out there, who's hitting up, who's likely to bowl.
A little inside edge on a pad. So how have you found the transition to Triple M where the team generally arrive about a minute and a half before the first ball?
Well, I just see them all come in, count them in. I'm sure that Ewan will give me a job shortly, making sure everyone's here, you know. No, it's good. I've really enjoyed it. It's a bit more relaxed than when I first started with Channel 9.
What a privilege, though, that you know, you've done some amazing things as a cricketer, which is acknowledged, but the fact you can look back and say you've spent so many years in the box with Richie Benno, Bill Laurie, Tony Gregg, Ian Chappell, you know, they're pioneers at Channel 9 that still so many things, whether it's the stump cam or the style of commentary or the 12th man tapes that you were involved with intimately. A tremendous privilege.
Oh, absolutely. And it just keeps your love of the game going. That's what it does. You know, Chaps and I've become very, very good mates with Ian Chappell over the years. I always knew him as when I played, but we started playing tennis together. Chaps and I still chat regularly now. We disagree on things, don't get me wrong, but it's always good debate. Sometimes they go to 2 or 3 in the morning. They used to when we were a bit younger.
Nisa piles in and squares Butler up, but he does well enough to keep it out. The Australians got their tails up 3 wickets away from being 2-0 up. 7 for 166 for Cooper's Mildale. Triple M Rocks cricket. 7 for 166. Butler 23. Robinson yet to face the delivery. He's got a task ahead of him now because he'll be facing Richardson, who's got 3 for 37. So he's got the figures, Jai Richardson. He looked a bit unlucky in the first innings, but he's got his tail up now, Jai. Into Robinson. The packed cordon, and he squeezes down on it. There's often a comparison between cricketers, you know, and they say, you know, the true greats. Bradman would have been fantastic when he was, and he'd be equally brilliant today. And, you know, Langer would have been great in 1930, and he was great when he was playing. Broadcasting has changed so much. How would Richie's style of being so understated and saying so little, but what he said had such a big impact, go in modern sports broadcasting, where it seems to be a bit more hustle and bustle and yelling and screaming? Robinson again chops down on it.
I still think there's a place for it. I really do.
Yes.
There's so much noise in commentary now. They said there's the old. We're actually doing only 2 of us here in the commentary box right now. Where generally it's now 3. So there's so much more noise, and that's indicative of the world of social media and media in general. Make more noise, make more headlines.
15-second grabs.
But occasionally it's just nice to slow back, take it back a step, particularly when you've got vision. It's a bit harder in radio, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's just great occasionally just to watch the vision, just have the occasional word.
Richardson to Robinson. Good work by Green in the gully. I must say that my favourite thing on Fox is when the spinner's bowling and we just don't talk at all. We just listen to the sounds of the game.
Yep, and that's a very good way of putting it. The sounds of the game. I've heard that many a time, you know, at Channel 9. Just sometimes hear the sounds of the game, hear the crowd, listen to the edge, the bat pad noise, how it's different to an edge behind. Those sorts of things that you only pick up by listening.
Yeah.
But at the moment there's so much noise that's made by all of us commentators that we don't tend to listen enough.
Richardson again to Robinson. Well, a prime example is it's to Green again. If Shane Warne bowled the ball of the century to Mike Gatting right here, right now, the commentary now that would happen in this radio box on 7, on Fox, on every other radio station, compared to Richie's so few words but brilliant commentary. Not better or worse, but just it'll be so different now.
Yes, yeah. And you wonder what you probably have to ask someone a lot younger than me what they would think.
Yeah.
Because I'd probably enjoy the Richie side, but I wouldn't not like the new stuff, but I think the younger generation would like more of the noise.
Yeah, I think you're right. Robinson is trying to keep Richardson and Australia out. He gets under a short one.
Yeah, Richie was just great like that, and often he would let the play go and then make a comment, you know, rather than generally now we call the play a lot more.
Yeah.
Well, we've got to call it on radio, of course, because people can't see it. On television, there was a time where you let the play go and then you just talked about what happened because people could already see it. And Kerry used to always remind us of that, you know, people can see what you're saying, so give them something they can't see.
Appreciate you taking us back through your broadcasting career, Tub. Fascinating. Final ball of Richardson over to Robinson. Just stymies it on the front foot. 7 for 166. Cooper's Mildale, Triple M Rocks cricket.